Welcome to LiveLeanTV. I'm Brad Guthrie from LiveLeanTV.com. So guys, on today's episode, I'm sharing a beginner's guide to carb cycling for fat loss. So in particular, I'll be sharing how carb cycling can help maintain your metabolism to get faster fat loss results when in a calorie deficit. So first, let's talk about low carb diet versus carb cycling. So when it comes to weight loss, one of the best ways to lose fat is limiting the amount of carbohydrates you consume. And if you haven't yet heard about the benefits of carb cycling, it's a simple nutrition protocol that fluctuates your daily carbohydrate consumption. And this fluctuation can help prevent your metabolism from slowing to a halt while still getting the benefits from fat loss while following a lower carb diet and being in a calorie deficit at the end of the week. So the question is, how many carbohydrates should you eat for fat loss? Well, the best macronutrient percentage for carbohydrates depends on many factors, including your current body composition, your activity level, your level of insulin resistance. However, typically between 350 to 1,050 grams of carbohydrates per week is best for fat loss. Note, that is per week, not per day. And I shared the per week number because there are two different ways to calculate the amount of carbohydrates to eat per day for fat loss. So option number one, spread your carbohydrate consumption evenly per day. And this is the traditional strict low carb diet approach where you'd eat the same amount of carbohydrates every day. So to accomplish this, you'd simply divide the weekly number of grams of carbohydrates by 7 to get your daily amount. So for example, on the lower end, we said 350 grams of carbs for the week. So 350 grams divided by 7 would be 50 grams of carbs per day. Now, this lower end of carbohydrate consumption would be for people with a higher body fat percentage. They're less active, thus they're probably having a higher level of insulin resistance. Now, on the other end, the higher end, we would take that 1,050 grams of carbs divided by 7 days, which would equal 150 grams of carbs per day. So this higher end of carbohydrate consumption would be for people with a lower body fat percentage. They actively work out, thus it's more likely that they have a lower level of insulin resistance. So here's the key takeaway. As a beginner to fat loss, following a strict low carb diet every day is not easy both physically and mentally. So since it takes the body a few days to adapt, the first few days of following a low carb diet will typically have you feeling low energy, constantly hungry, moody and cranky, and a little foggy in the brain. And also from a mental perspective, it's tough to stay focused on a low carb diet when you really have nothing to look forward to. In other words, there's no cheat days to look forward to, or there's no higher carb days to look forward to. So this leads me to option number 2, carb cycling. So what is carb cycling? Well, for fat loss, it's an approach that strategically schedules your carbohydrate consumption amounts through the week to maintain your metabolism and avoid fat loss plateaus. So as you know, if you're in a calorie deficit that is too much or for too long of a period of time, your metabolism can slow down. So carb cycling is an excellent nutrition protocol to help maintain your metabolism while you're in that calorie deficit. And it's also known to help improve your body sensitivity to the fat storing hormone insulin, as well as your hunger hormone leptin and ghrelin. So carb cycling is based on low carb days, so let's just say 50 grams of carbs or less, medium carb days, so 50 to 100 grams per day, and high carb days, which is typically 100 to 150 grams per day. And of course, if you're already lean, like pretty lean, and you're very active, but you just have a few pounds of stubborn body fat to burn, you could increase your high carb day up to 300 grams of carbs. So again, the amount of carbs all comes down to earning them. The leaner you are, the more active you are, the more likely you're probably less insulin resistant, so your body can burn carbohydrates better for fuel rather than storing them as body fat. So not only do the high carb days help maintain your metabolism while you're in that calorie deficit, they'll also help mentally as they can act as that much needed refeed or cheat meal where the carbohydrate consumption is increased. So to be clear, this refeed or the cheat meal is not an all-out binge. If it turns into a binge, it can put you in a calorie surplus, meaning fat gain, not fat loss. And also, to calculate your protein and your fat macros while carb cycling, Well, as the name implies, when carb cycling, the carbohydrate macronutrient goes up and down based on the day, while the protein and the fat macronutrient pretty much stays fairly consistent. So based on the protein and the fat staying consistent, this means your total calories will also fluctuate on different days. So these high carb days act as your refeed or your cheat meal day, as they will also be higher in calories. But to ensure you're still in that calorie deficit at the end of the week, you may have to slightly lower the intake of your protein and your fat consumption on those days. So here's how to calculate your carb macros while carb cycling. So there are various carb cycling approaches that you can follow, but carb cycling option number 1 is 1 weekly high carbohydrate refeed day. So this would be your typical 1 cheat meal a week approach. So for example, 6 days of lower carb, clean eating, followed by 1 day of foods higher in carbohydrates. So this would look as follows. Day 1, low carb day. Day 2, low carb day. Day 3 could be a medium carb day, and day 4 is back to a low carb day. Day 5 is another low carb day, and then day 6 is that high carb day where you could have your refeed or your cheat meal. And then back to day 7 is another low carb day. Now, option number 2 for carb cycling is a low carb, medium carb, and high carb cycle split. So essentially, a moderately higher carb day every 3 to 4 days, spread between lower carb and medium carb days. So this could look as follows. Day 1, low carb day. Day 2, a medium carb day. Day 3, low carb day. Day 4, a higher carb day. Day 5, a low carb day. And day 6, a medium carb day. And day 7 is again a higher carb day. So here's the bottom line, guys, on carb cycling for fat loss. To lose weight while carb cycling, you still need to be in that calorie deficit. And this calorie deficit can be created by burning more calories via your activity level than you consume via food. So make sure you're strategic with your high carb days. So typically these higher carb days should be planned for the weekend, so it helps you stay focused during the week, and it also gives you something to look forward to on the weekend. And let's be real, also the weekends are usually the time to enjoy social outings with friends. Therefore, you can get out and enjoy yourself without feeling too deprived. And high carb days should also be planned for days when your workout program has you completing higher intensity workouts, so you can properly fuel and recover. So this means you can schedule your intense workouts before you have your refeed or a cheat meal. And lastly, even on low carb days, ensure you focus your carbohydrates on foods higher in fiber. So this means leafy greens, berries, nuts, seeds, and even dark chocolate. And guys, we have a carb cycling fat loss program called our 14-day rapid shred on our team LiveLean.com group coaching site. So if you haven't yet joined our team, now is the time, guys. Thanks for watching, and keep living lean.